This is the curious thing about narcissistic people. This belief that everyone's envious of them, everybody wants to be just like them. They also believe that they are special, they are entitled to special treatment. There can be that assumption that everyone else is up to no good. There could be that belief that other people are out to get them, to take something away from them. They don't trust anyone. Everybody's lying to them somehow. But when it comes to that accusatory nature or the paranoia that comes up, it isn't just a case of, people are following me or there's people hiding in the wardrobe or whatever. It's more this ongoing assumption that someone is going to betray them. They're going to cheat on them. They're going to undermine them somehow. They're going to try to take something from them. Even if, I suppose, if they were honest with themselves, there is this fear that they are going to be exposed as the fraud that they are. Envy is part of the diagnostic criteria, this belief that others are envious of them or should be envious of them. Now, with narcissistic people, envy and jealousy often go hand in hand. They're different things, but they often go hand in hand. Envy is something we feel whenever we see someone with something we don't have, or they can do something that we can't do. It's not necessarily a bad thing. Envy can inspire us. We want to be like that. We want to try to be like that. We want to learn. With narcissism, the envy is different. The envy is you have it and I don't, or you have the same thing I do, therefore I'm not superior anymore. We're the same. I want to take that away from you. You shouldn't have that. Jealousy is what we feel whenever we fear someone is going to take something from us or someone from us. So, to see the envy, someone has something they don't, but what's being taken from them is maybe their status or their superiority. You often get them both. And sometimes that paranoia is that someone is going to take something from them. They're going to take away their special status. They're going to take away their superiority. Or as I said, they will be exposed as the fraud that they are. They are not a genius. They are not the most drop-dead gorgeous person you've ever met. They are not a hilarious comedian. They are not super intellectual. So that false, I would even say that fake version of themselves is very fragile and very easily shattered. So what you tend to have is this hypervigilance towards being exposed or something being taken from them. That, I think I talked about it one time before, it's like this emotional shield that's around them. Rejects reality, keeps reality at bay. And they need other people to reflect back to them that they are indeed amazing and special. If they don't get that, they can experience what's known as a narcissistic wound, and they take things really personally. Even if someone is just pointing out the obvious, pointing out that maybe they made a spelling mistake or something simple, trivial, it doesn't have to be a big deal. But to them, it's almost like a personal slight. So what you often find is this hypervigilance towards reality, towards being disagreed with, towards being challenged somehow. They need to believe, they need others to believe that they are special as well. In some ways, you might see that manifest, that accusatory nature, that paranoia that people are out to get them, to take something from them. If you think of a workplace, and I've seen this in a few places I've worked in, you might have a member of the team. You work in a department, you work in a team, and you might have someone maybe very high on that narcissistic scale. Even though they're part of the team, they don't particularly want to work with the others. So they don't necessarily share information. They kind of keep things to themselves. They will take other people's ideas, of course. They will want other people's information, maybe claim it as their own, but they don't necessarily share their own stuff. They don't really enjoy working as part of the team unless they get to be in charge, unless they get to feel as if they're in charge of it. And within that team, they might fear that others would take credit for their work, because that's the kind of thing that they do. So they guard their work very preciously. Within a family, if it was a narcissistic family, what you might find is that family demands your loyalty. Okay, whatever that loyalty is. Remember, the family operates like a cult. They want your loyalty even over your own partner and your own kids. That family of origin always comes first. To hell with the casualties, okay? Even if that relationship, that marriage, or whatever, ends up breaking up because of their interference, they still demand that grown-up child, that adult child, they still demand their loyalty. They start to grow up, they start to do things in their own best interest. And this wouldn't just be common in a narcissistic family, this is narcissism in general. They struggle to believe that someone would have ambition, that someone would have ideas of their own, that someone would want to do things in their own best interest, or even for the interest of other people, people they care about. Someone would be turning them against them. They demand that loyalty. They expect that loyalty. When that person starts to do things for themselves, yeah, it's like someone has planted that in their head. They've been turned against the family, even though the family could be really hurting them. Even when it comes to narcissistic friends, you might have a friend, someone you hang out with, someone you've known for years. You might have been at school with them or something. You grew up with them, known each other a long time. But they could struggle with the thought of you having other friends. They could struggle with you maybe getting a boyfriend or a girlfriend or something, because that's going to take you away from them. Okay, going back to the envy and the jealousy. You now have something I don't have, and I'm going to lose you. Narcissistic people struggle with the thought of other people having room in their lives for others, having other relationships, different kinds of relationships. It's a very all or nothing way of seeing the world. You have to see me, you have to be thinking of me, you have to be in my company. And that's very true. You would find even in romantic relationships. You have to think about them all day long. You have to think about them all day and every day. If you're doing something else, if you think about someone else, you want to go visit your family, you want to hang out with your other friends just for the evening, whatever it is, yeah, that's when you can see the little rejections come up. That's when you can see the huffs. That's when you can see the silent treatment. This belief that you've betrayed them somehow. And this would be very common in romantic kind of relationships, marriages and things like that, but you can get it in other narcissistic dynamics, where you get a lot of accusations about your motives, about your thoughts. I always find it curious, narcissistic people seem to have this, or believe they have this ability to mind read. I know what you're thinking. You did that because of this. I know what your motives are. But you might hear a lot of crazy accusations that if you're doing something, it's only because you want attention from someone else. You might hear questions like, you went to the shop to get some milk. It took you 10 minutes. Well, it only took you 8 minutes last time. What were you up to? Who were you talking to? On social media, you might get interrogated about who's that person? Why are they commenting on your post? And why are you commenting on theirs? A lot of different kind of questions. This belief they're going to lose something, that you're going to betray them, that you're going to hurt them. Now, the curious flip side of that is, in a relationship with someone, we tend to get close. We tend to get intimate on a lot of different levels, emotionally, intellectually, as well as physically. Intimacy, however, tends to bring up a level of vulnerability, which narcissistic people struggle with. So as much as they want to be close and they want you to be close to them, there is still that flip. There is still that fear. What do you want from me? How are you going to betray me? How is it you're going to hurt me? And that's when we commonly hear things like, my last partner was a narcissist. My last partner cheated on me. All of these terrible things that have happened to them. The last person did this, and so on. And it's a way of justifying their behavior. They'll claim it's their terrible anxiety. They'll claim it's their trauma or whatever. And it's all about making things very difficult for you to say no to them, to not give them what they want, leading you to believe that you're responsible for how they feel, that you have to manage their triggers for them. You have to wrap them in cotton wool. You have to wrap them in bubble wrap. You have to protect them from all the terrible things. And your behavior causes their trauma, causes their anxiety. So they hold you responsible for what they think, how they feel, how they behave. And yeah, after a while, you're kind of losing yourself. Your boundaries are becoming more and more eroded. To that narcissistic person, sometimes there is deliberate intent to undermine you, to coerce you, to control you. Other times, it's more an outcome. Again, the lack of empathy. They don't necessarily understand or care about what they're doing, because it's all about them. It's all about their own unhealthy, maladaptive defense mechanisms against reality and against responsibility. What they don't recognize is their uncertainty that they're feeling, because they can't see your thoughts, so they decide what your thought is. Someone walks in front of you and they decide that you're planning to have an affair. They're demanding access to your phone. They want to see who you're messaging and all the rest of it. This uncertainty is bringing up a lack of control in them, and that is not sitting well. Another part of that paranoia is when you are getting a lot of those accusations and so on, it's not that they have to prove your guilt, because this is just in their head, so they're not necessarily having to prove anything, but they expect you to prove your innocence. So you're already guilty because they have decided, but they expect you to prove your innocence, which you generally can't. Because even if you can assure them one way, it'll move on to something else. Or something is just so deeply ingrained in their head, they have decided it's true. No amount of evidence is going to change that. Now, an example would be a guy I knew many years ago. He was dating this girl, and he introduced her to us, this circle of friends. And out of nowhere, dinner one night, she started telling us about how he was cheating with other women. And we could just see him going, oh, for God's sake, you know. He had been seeing other women. He'd been messaging other women. They were messaging him. But he was very clever, because every time they would message each other, he would delete the messages. And her evidence for that was when she took his phone and checked it, there weren't any messages. So here we have kind of circular logic, circular reasoning. That's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. You have to prove your innocence, and you can't, because they've already decided. So out comes the accusation, whatever it happens to be, that you're cheating, that you're going to, do something dreadful, that you were gossiping, or whatever it is. They've decided that. You have to prove your innocence. But as I say, you can't, because often the goalposts shift. It just moves on to something else.